Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. So, today we're going to be covering a rather complicated topic. It's one of my favorites in this game, as those of you who may know, I've made several characters based on this ability, and it is called Chance to Cast. Now, Chance to Cast comes in two different forms. It is Chance to Cast on striking, which means actually hitting the target, and Chance to Cast on attack, which means that you don't have to hit the target, if that's not clear enough by the fact that I missed my hand on purpose. Now, it is important to note that Chance to Cast does work on most abilities. The only exception that I know of is Whirlwind. Whirlwind will not apply any Chance to Cast abilities. It will also not apply any Chance to Attack abilities. However, Whirlwind, for some reason or another, still applies hits blinds target, which is very useful in Whirlwind. There are many abilities in the game that will not apply chance on attack. Blade Fury is just one of those examples, and you're going to have to look up each ability individually. I can't go over all like 52 abilities or however many abilities are in the game and go over each individual one and tell you which ones apply chance to cast and chance to attack and so forth and so on. So you're going to have to look up your specific ability and you're going to have to find out. What is Chance to Cast? Well, Chance to Cast is an ability that comes on armor, weapons, etc. And if it says that it has, for instance, like on these gloves, a 10% chance to cast level 3 Holy Bolt, that means that when you are striking, it has a chance to shoot out Holy Bolts. Just as a quick demonstration of this, let's go into a portal real quick. And let me find any monster, and I will show you that when I attack said monster, Holy Bolts do in fact come out because I have multiple different Holy Bolt procs. It's very interesting. This is how Chance to Cast works, but what is it good for? Well, Chance to Cast comes in many, many, many different varieties. You can find Chance to Cast when struck. You can find Chance to Cast when attacking. You can find Chance to Cast on striking. You can find Chance to Cast on death. You can find Chance to Cast on level up. There is so many different versions of Chance to Cast abilities that, quite honestly, they're kind of nuts. But for the most part, they're relatively useless. When you have an ability like 10% chance to cast level 3 Holy Bolt, how much does level 3 Holy Bolt really do? It does next to nothing. And if you put this on a character that is, like a barbarian, an Amazon, a druid, whatever you're putting this particular pair of gloves on, that Holy Bolt on striking is a rather minimal and rather crappy amount of damage. However, it has been proven that synergies do affect the level, or the damage rather, of the ability. So for instance, with Holy Bolt in this particular instance, I am getting a 1000% synergy bonus from building up Fist of the Heavens. So if you hold your mouse over Holy Bolt, you will see that it says Fist of the Heavens applies a 50% magic damage per level bonus. And that is 50 times 20, which adds up to 1000. So we get a nice 1000% damage bonus by putting our 20 hard points into Fist of the Heavens. We do not have to put any points into Holy Bolt because in any chance to cast scenario, the level of the ability is decided by the item. This is very important, okay? Also, if the level of the ability and the ability are the same, the two amounts are added together, okay? What do I mean by this? So let's say somehow I was able to equip two laying of hands, or maybe I had a carrion wind, 2 carrion winds. In fact, I have a character who has 2 carrion winds. Let's go take a look at him real quick. I built another chance to cast character. He's a wind wolf, and he's a very fun character. His name is Gilbert. He's a non-ladder character, so he can't join the ladder characters game. but he has 2 rings on, and the rings are called carrion winds. Each carrion wind has a 8% chance to cast level 13 Twister on striking, and since they are both exactly the same, the level and the event combine. So basically, how this works is they are still level 13 because they are both level 13. They stay at level 13, and it is an 8% chance, which means the 2% chances combine to be a 16% chance in this scenario. However, notice I also have a chance to cast Twister on my armor, but it's level 15. The level 15 acts separately. So if you have a 5% chance to cast level 15 Twister and a 8% chance to cast level 13 Twister, they are separate from each other and they proc separately. However, if you put on a second Carrion Wind, your 8% chance to cast level 13 Twister goes up to a 16% chance to cast level 13 Twister, which is, of course, much better. This is one of the interesting things about the percentages adding up as long as the level of the ability is the same. So the level of the ability and the event have to be the same. So it has to be a Twister, and it has to be a level 13 Twister. And basically both of these add together to create a bigger item. They also carry forward the passives, as I was talking about earlier. So this character also has passives. So if you take a look at Twister, Twister has 3 different synergy bonuses that come from the passive effects. It has a Arctic Blast duration for the stun. It has a damage per level from Tornado, and it has a damage per level from Hurricane, which means if I want to beef up Twister, I would beef up Tornado, Hurricane, and Arctic Blast, which would in effect beef up Twister. And then when the Twisters come out of my item, you're going to see a really nice bonus damage to the Twisters. The level 13 Twisters get the full synergy bonus, the level 15 Twister on the armor gets a full synergy bonus, and also the level 22 Twister on Windhammer Ogre Maul gets a full synergy bonus. The Windhammer's Twister is separate from the Rain's Twister, which is also separate from the Carrion Winds Twister. So I have a 16%, I have a 5%, and I have a 33% proc all going at the same time. Now you might be asking yourself, well, how does that work? Well, the answer to the question is they all fire simultaneously. So casting order is normally irrelevant if 2 or more skills are triggered by the same event. All are cast on the same frame. Only 2 situations make the order matter. 2 or more triggered skills fire missiles with next delay, where only the first to hit is a given target will apply to that target. So what that means is that if you have a target that, for instance, right in front of you, and you fire 2 attacks at him, if the ability that you have has a next hit delay, that means that only one of those missiles will hit the target. So, for instance, in the case of Holy Bolt, does Holy Bolt have next hit delay? I'm not really sure anymore. It used to have next hit delay, and now, since they've changed it, it's kind of hard to figure that out. It doesn't show the X's anymore. You will notice a lot of the times when it comes to next hit delay, you will see the X's appear on the monster, which basically means that you missed. But it also applies for elemental abilities when the next hit delay is causing it to miss on purpose. And I don't normally see any X's with Holy Bolt anymore. But in the past, the way that Holy Bolt worked was that if you fired a Holy Bolt at a monster, and the monster could not be hit by the next hit delay, it would go through the monster and hit the next monster behind it. And this is perfectly fine in certain situations because, of course, if you have multiple abilities coming out and it's going through targets to hit the next target after it, then that's perfectly fine. That means you're still getting the damage, it's just not coming quite the way that you think. And it also, 2 or more curses are triggered where only the last curse will apply. And this is something that we're going to have to talk about in detail. Basically, how this works is we've got on striking, on attack, when you kill an enemy, when you level up, when you strike, when struck, and when you die. These are for curses, of course, and curses actually work in a specific order, and everything else works in another order, which is, yeah. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go over to Amazon Basin because this is all highly technical, and I do feel like we need to go over this together. So here we are on the Amazon Basin website, and I'm going to try and put myself somewhere so that you guys can see what's going on here. So equipping order. All right, this is a kind of an interesting one. When the trigger event is the same, equipping order determines the casting order. Curses are cast in the reverse order to which they are equipped. First equipped, last to cast. While skills are cast in equipping order, first equipped, first to cast. However, after recovery of corpse following death, charms and inventory are already equipped, then the game attempts to equip remaining items in the following order. So basically, if you die and you basically come back, the equipping order changes, and this is the equipping order when you die. So it always equips your head first, your neck second, your torso third, your right arm, then your left arm, your right ring, then your left ring, your waist, your feet, and your hands. Which basically means that for casting order, since casting order is reversed, as it says here, first equipped, last cast, which is actually what we want, because the last cast means that it's going to be the one that overwrites the last, because curses overwrite each other. So the hands are always going to be the first when you pick up your body, which means that, like for instance, in the case of Dracul's, which is the life tap gloves, if you have any other pieces of equipment on, like for instance, let's say you're running a dream helmet, or maybe you're running a dream shield, which has confuse on it, or you're running maybe I don't know, there's a couple different options. You will notice that if you make sure that your hands are equipped first, not last, you want to basically make sure you take everything off and put your Dracul's on first, and then put everything back on, and then your Dracul's will cast last. So first, remember, first equipped, last cast. I may have even confused myself a little bit there, but I think I got it in the end. While skills are equipped in the order of first equipped, first cast. So, for instance, if I wanted to make sure that my Holy Bolt triggers first, like for instance, which twister on my character would I like to have procking first? If there is a next hit delay, I want to make sure that my hardest hitting one is hitting first, not last. So this is something that I would consider my Windhammer Ogre Maul. My Windhammer Ogre Maul would most likely be my first equipped item, specifically because of that reason, because I want to make sure that the highest level twister is coming out first, my second highest level twister is coming out second, and my third highest level twister is coming out third, and so forth and so on. So this is an interesting consideration. The other very interesting thing about it is that it does work with delayed skills. So let's see here. So this is the displayed order. When the trigger, event, and item are the same, casting order is determined by the displayed order. Curses are cast in descending order, first displayed to last, while other skills are cast in ascending order, last displayed to first. The table lists curses and other skills in casting order, not displayed order. So this is the casting order for curses, so it always goes Taunt, Howl, Lower Resist, Crepify, Attract, Life Tap, Confuse, Terror, Iron Maiden, Weaken, Dim Vision, Amplify Damage, Hits Blinds Target, and then Hit Causes Monster to Flee. But because Hit Causes Monster to Flee, the way that it works, I believe it actually applies last, is what it says here. And there's some more interesting information as far as chance to cast goes. So triggering skills with a delay. So let's take, for instance, Frozen Orb. Frozen Orb is a good one. That is on Voice of Reason. Triggering skills with a delay does not make the order above matter. Even if more than one skill with a delay is triggered, all will still execute without the delay interfering. However, after triggering a delay skill, an 11 iframe delay is applied from the action frame. During this delay, no active skills can be used, not even the normal attack. Now, this changed recently. They actually enabled spell weaving, so this hasn't been updated. But basically, it still applies to that ability. So the way that they updated it is it no longer applies to everything, but it still applies to that one ability. So you won't be able to trigger another frozen orb, for instance, until the delay for frozen orb is finished. But if you had, say, 2 or 3 or even 4 skills that were all triggering frozen orb at the same time, they would all trigger and they would all cast at the same time. But they will not cast again until the delay is over. So that's very, very interesting. All this is actually really very technical, and I find that it's very interesting to go over chance to cast abilities because for specific characters they can be extremely powerful. It depends on the item, of course, but like take for instance the Rising Sun Amulet. The Rising Sun Amulet has a nice level 19 meteor, which has a 2% chance when struck. But if you were a meteor sorceress, if you were a fire sorceress and somebody hit you and you triggered a massive, meteor attack on this target, it could very well help save your life. There's some very interesting uses for a lot of these abilities on characters specifically that can build the chance to cast. And this is where things get really interesting, I feel like, in Diablo land, because you can build such amazingly interesting characters as a character who can literally run around and just kind of do whatever they want to do. I've been playing around with characters for a very long time, and one of the interesting things, the most interesting builds for me, is just simply the ability to build a chance to cast character. And you guys might not even know what the hell I'm talking about, but when you see my paladin in action, my god Zealer, you're going to know exactly what I mean. Because I literally have holy bolts just shooting out of everywhere, and it's absolutely amazing to witness. I actually really enjoy building these chance to cast characters. Whether it's a paladin shooting holy bolts, whether it's a druid shooting twisters and tornadoes, whether it's a sorceress, an enchant sorceress who's shooting out fireballs, and all sorts of interesting things like this. I really, really enjoy the ability to just build a character and make it work in weird and unexpected ways. And that's one of the interesting things about chance to cast abilities, is that you can, of course, build your characters in these strange ways. Shooting off holy bolts every single time you attack. Shooting off twisters as a druid every single time you use your paws. Now, of course, chance to cast abilities are not strictly limited to, I saw Conviction Aura there, and I backed right on out, are not strictly limited to characters that, can beef them up with synergies. There are certain abilities that are going to be useful on multiple characters. Like, for instance, the Venom, which is on the Grief, can be useful to a wide variety of characters. There is also things like Fade on Treachery. There is the ability to proc, like Twisters on the Carrion Wind that have a stun effect, which means as a character who is attacking rather rapidly, even if you're not a druid, having an additional ability which can fly around and stun things is certainly very useful. Frozen Orb is a rather high damage ability, and things like Voice of Reason and whatnot will actually have very nice effects as far as dishing out damage. We also have items like Crescent Moon, which have a level 13 static field on striking, which allows the character to apply a reduction to the monster's HP of 25%, which is very amazing. There are also abilities like this one, which have lower resist curses when struck, or Poison Nova on striking. And as you go through the Diablo world, you will come across all these amazing items which can come in handy on certain characters. Like, for instance, Lower Resistance doesn't have any synergies. Lower Resistance is a curse, and curses can be extremely useful if used on the correct characters. My character, for instance, is a Holy Shock Paladin who really likes to have Lower Resistance because it beefs up my damage tremendously. Let me go see if I can actually play around with this Conviction Paladin, Travinsal member over here. My poor mercenary. I didn't think he was going to make it through the Conviction. I honestly didn't even think I was going to make it through the Conviction. Let's be honest. But I did. So nice. And as you can see, it really works very well to give you an additional bonus damage, an additional way to create more for your character than just simply, oh, okay, this character is dishing out physical damage only, or this character is, dishing out, he's an elemental damage character, or, even making your mercenaries stronger. One of the things that people love to do with their frenzy mercs now is use things like Voice of Reason, which will put out frozen orbs, Crescent Moon, which has static field proc, all sorts of very interesting things that you can do to make your characters and your mercenaries more effective. Fade proc from Treachery on your mercenary will give him more resistances and physical damage reduction. You can also do things like Venom to give him extra damage if he hits really fast. You can even use these procs, believe it or not, as a buff. So, for instance, chance to cast abilities will also work if you put them on. Like, for instance, if you put Treachery on and you just kind of wait until the ability procs, you can then keep the ability and then take off the armor. The chance to cast Fade does not go away until the duration ends. So, a lot of people will use things like Fade as a pre-buff for going into the Ubers and doing Uber battles and things like that. I would be really interested to hear what very interesting abilities you have made with chance to cast items. There are so many crazy chance to cast items that I really cannot even begin to tell you all of them. But one of the things that you can do, and I'd like to show you this really quickly, is if you ever get the idea that you want to try and make a chance to cast character, I don't care what it is. Maybe you want to make a fireball enchant sorceress, okay? What I want you to do is check out Amazon Basin for this. So you're going to type in fireball. You're going to go to the Amazon Basin website, and they are absolutely great for this because if you scroll down through this page, you will find every item in the game, for the most part, that gives chance to cast fire. They will show you all of them. So Enlightenment has a level 15 at 5% chance. On attack, we have here Toad's Fell Flom, Hellflayer Slayer Decapitator. We also have Triangle's Avatar, gives the O skill, and it shows us each individual one. So right off the bat there, if I wanted to make a sorceress who was slinging some fireballs out, it looks like Enlightenment armor is a good choice because I would be shooting out fireballs all over the place. At level 15 fireballs with a 5% chance, and if I had full synergies for fireballs, it could be some pretty impressive damage. Let's check another skill. So let's say we wanted to make a bone spear necromancer or something. So we wanted to find items that would shoot out bone spears. So let's go down the list and let's take a look. We've got bone body armor has a level 10, 15% chance. We've got Bone Hue Ogre Axe has level 16, 50% chance. We've got Brand Missile Weapon is level 18 with a 100% chance. So very interesting. And those, of course, can be synergized by a Necromancer. I actually have a video going over a Necromancer with full synergies, believe it or not, on Bone Spear. Now, I did this before they changed the patch and added in some more piercing items, and so I think I actually need to revisit that eventually, and we'll have some fun playing around with ideas. Let's take a look at another ability. So let's use... I'm trying to think here right off the top of my head. Let's use an assassin ability like Venom. All right, so let's look up Venom. Let's see how many items have Venom procs on them. There's actually quite a few, believe it or not. So we have Venom Charges on Arachnid's Mesh and Andoriel's Visage. We have Chance to Cast on Treachery and Grief Sword. We have Wind Struck on the Dragon Body Armor and Shield. And we also have When You Level Up, level 23 on the Rainbow Poison Facet. Interesting. And then let's look up another item. So another skill. So let's look up Fist of the Heavens. This is one that I actually did a little while ago because when I was building my Godzilla, I was also playing around with the idea or toying with the idea of having Fist of the Heavens proccing as I'm running around doing things. And it didn't really work out as well as I would have thought because unfortunately there's not a lot of really good items as far as proc chance and they're really low on the percentages. But As you can see here, we have a chance to cast on Hand of Blessed Light of 4%, level 4, 5%, sorry. We also have level 7 with 5% on Gold Strike Arch, level 7, 6% on Cloud Crack Gothic Sword, and then we have a Wind Struck of level 7 with a 5% chance on the Thunder God's Vigor. So not a lot of really good choices there, but the Thunder God's Vigor is not terrible. And then you can look up other abilities like, let's say, Valkyrie. So Valkyrie is an interesting one because it's a summon. And I don't believe I went over this yet, but there are items that will cast Valkyries. Here they are right here. So we've got the O skill armor Harmony gives +2 to 6. So this actually gives you the ability, which is pretty cool. And then we have the Peace armor, which will summon a level 15 with a 2% chance, and it summons it all the time. I got God bless it. One of the downsides of summoning a creature, a summon, is that if you don't actually have the skill, a lot of the times they will just disappear. And this was actually covered on that Chance to Cast page on the Amazon Basin. They talk about how if you don't actually have 1 point into the ability, they get kind of buggy and they just disappear whenever they feel like it. So it's interesting. And when it comes to Chance to Cast abilities, I think we can also talk about charges as well, because believe it or not, charges also follow very similar rules to Chance to Cast. So for instance, with Enchant, we have some items that have charges, right? So if I take a sorceress who has max level warmth, and I use the Demon Limb, which is level 23, and I cast Enchant on somebody, it will have the full synergy bonus from warmth, which is actually pretty darn sweet. So you can actually use this as a roundabout way to not put points in Enchant, and instead just use the Demon Limb to cast some really high-level Enchant on your buddies. But if we go down, you'll notice we've got level 10 on striking, 2% chance. We've got level 5, 5% chance from Immortal Kings. We've got when you kill an enemy to level 21 with a 30% chance on the Obedience polearm. The Obedience always basically has Enchant running. It's a very, very powerful polearm for mercenaries. We also have things like Critical Strike. So Critical Strike is an O skill, but it is available on armors. You can get Critical Strike on Melody, Insight, Peace, in various forms. These are O skills, and this one is not. So this one only works for the Amazon, and these two actually work for any character, which is pretty cool. Those aren't Chance to Cast. I don't even know I went over that. Trying to think of anything else I may have forgotten when it comes to Chance to Cast. Let's go over next hit delay. So here we go, next delay. So next delay is an eternal timer applied to a monster after a missile from a particular set of skills collides with it. Missiles from these skills will not collide with another monster until the timer expires. Next delay duration is measured in frames. So for instance, here we go. We have some abilities that have next delays. So for instance, multi-shot is a 4-frame delay. Strafe is a 4-frame. Lightning Strike is a 4-frame. So as you can see here, we have some delays as far as the next hit. Shockwave has a 25-frame delay. Blade Sentinel's 25. And this is important because these delays come into play when it comes to Chance to Cast. As you can see here, Twister has a duration in frames of 25. Let's see here, hold on. It's measured in frames. So basically, you can't hit a monster with another Twister until the frames are gone. But see, the funny thing is about this is because Twisters have such random pathing, like absolutely random pathing. There's just... I don't even know how to explain it. Can't breathe there for a second. It doesn't even matter that there's a next hit delay because the Twisters are just going all over the place because their pathing is so freaking random. And you're hitting like everything on the battlefield. It's not so important that you're dishing out damage. You're basically just trying to stun everything. Tornado also has a next hit delay. Volcano has a next hit delay, and Shockwave. So as you can see here, we have some items that have next hit delay. Teeth has a next hit delay. Teeth needs to have its next hit delay removed because it needs to be shotgunnable. As you can see here on the Paladin, we have none, which is why Holy Bolt is so fun. Chain Lightning, Nova, Frost Nova, those have next hit delay. So it's important to remember this when you're trying to build a character who has chance to cast, basically going over the next hit delay, and especially when you're talking about things like, you notice multi-shot. You can't shotgun with multi-shot, only one arrow hits a target. You may have never known this before, but now you do, and knowing is half the battle. So pay attention to this next hit delay. Make sure that you understand that things like Shockwave cannot hit a target multiple times. Twister cannot hit a target multiple times, etc., etc. Also, look at the duration as well. So if you think about 25 seconds or 25 frames as a full second, 4 frames is obviously not a lot. So you should be able to hit the target again relatively quickly. However, 4 frames is still a delay, and if you are somehow capable of attacking again before 4 frames is up and you hit the target, that means nothing is going to happen. So keep that in mind. I think I've gone over just about everything when it comes to chance to cast, and 31 minutes is way too long already, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this short. If you have any questions about chance to cast, if you need clarification on anything specifically, feel free to put a comment down below, and I will do my best to answer your questions. As always, thank you for watching, and keep watching.